Welcome back to episode 101, you guys. This is part 2 of a 2-part series. If you haven't watched part 1, it's the last video. Go watch that. We're trying to win 100K here in Macau. Last video, I went to work 5 sessions, and I'm going to do the final 4 before I head to Hong Kong. I've actually already been to Hong Kong and back, and there is going to be a live stream video. So those of you that have been requesting some table footage, next video, live stream, you're going to love it. But for this video, we are starting at around $70,000 numbers here. And we have to make it 30,000 more. It's only 300 big blinds. We have 4 sessions to go. Let's see how I do. So this is session number 1 of the video, session number 6 of the challenge. We're sitting at just over 70,000, only 30K to go. Let's get it. Under the gun has limped. Middle position is bumped up to 400. We look down at pocket 10s, good enough for a re-raise in the hijack, so I make it 1.3K, and only the middle position player makes the call. We go heads up to a flop of 6-5-3 rainbow. My opponent checks to me, and normally I would check this back. Very, very, very high frequency. My opponent has all the sets pure here usually, but this opponent raised over a limp. I don't think he's going to have any sets here. Pocket 6s, pocket 5s, pocket 3s. I imagine this player is just going to limp them behind. I don't think he's going to be raising them. He just wants to set mine, right? So a lot of value we can get here. I'm going to go ahead and bet it out. 1.3K. My opponent busts out the check raise now to 3.1K. I really think this is some sort of top pair or some medium strength pocket pair like 9s through 7s here. Trying to get some value and also find out where they're at. So I'm very confident here with our hand. I make the call. We head to the turns, the 5 of hearts. My opponent now checks it over, so really seems like pocket 9s through 7s now. I don't think there's too much sense in betting now. They only have like 8% equity. We could get a little bit of value out of them, but I think I just want to check it, give him one more chance to bluff if he is bluffing, and there's not much equity to deny anyway. So I check it back, river, deuce of spades. My opponent puts in a very quick bet of 5,200. Think it over. I just don't think he's got a set here. Maybe 6-5 suited. I just think he's going to over limp those. Yeah, I don't know. You know, it seems like a raise for protection on the flop, and maybe now he's trying to get some value from an ace high. Something doesn't add up though, but at the same time, I just don't think he has sets here. So I make the call, and my opponent rolls over quads. Run into quads 5 times this month. Make it stop. Not a good start to the session though. Oh boy. Up next, cutoff has raised to 300. This is the same player as the last hand. And guys, I complained about being card dead in the last video. It is nothing compared to this video. We're about 3 hours into this session. I've only played that one hand and ran to quads. So I pick up Jack 6 of clubs and I just go, I want to play a goddamn hand. So I bumped up to 1.2K. My opponent makes the call. Flop, ace 5, 4, 1 club. I put a small bet of 800 and he once again raises to 2.8K. All right, we just burned 2,000. Oh boy. This card dead needs to end soon. I'm losing my mind. All right, folks, this is about 2 hours after the last hand, the Jack 6 of clubs. I am dying. There's one thing I hate, it's being card dead, but we pick up ace queen off. Finally, a real hand. All right, we have an under the gun +1 raised to 250. Cutoff makes it 900. We look down ace queen. We're gonna put in the cold 4-bet, 2.3K to go, and cutoff makes the call. Flop comes down 10-5-3 rainbow. My opponent checks to me. Gonna start with a small bet here as the board's gonna favor me as I have the stronger over pairs and a higher concentration of them. So 1.3K, my opponent makes the call. Turns bad news, the 10 of diamonds. Not a great card, and one that we're gonna wanna start slowing down on quite a bit. I imagine jacks and queens would be a bet, so I'd rather have kind of like my lower give ups, ace queen. There's not really any showdown value here because players don't float very wide, but I would still rather use something more like, I don't know, queen jack suited or something. Something blocks more 10x. Anyways, I check river, ace of diamonds. All right, my opponent now checks. Let's go for some value. I never go less than maybe 75% unless for a very specific reason on the river in position. So that is what I do. 6.5K into the middle. My opponent makes a very quick fold. But we won our first pot 5-ish hours into the session. And then we go to another big spell of card death. I cannot take it anymore. So when I look down at 4 deuce of diamonds in early position, I decide to get aggressive with it. The on-the-gun player made it 300. I make it 1K. This is what boredom does to you. Middle position folds, and now we get the cold 4-bet to 2.5K. And guys, I played 3 hands today. We're gonna battle. I make the call. Go heads up to a flop of ace, 9, 7, 2 diamonds, 1 spades. We got ourselves a flush draw. Pretty much the best flop you can ask for. I check. My opponent puts in a bet of 1K. Never raising here. I make the call. Turns nice. We make the flush with a 5 of diamonds and almost certainly the best hand. My opponent isn't going to be cold 4-betting hands like king jack suited too often, maybe some king queen suited, but with the ace of diamonds out there, I can be very sure I've got the best hand. He puts in a bet of 3,500, and after that bet, he's got around 16,000 behind. So I think a jam makes the most sense. It's going to be tough for me to balance this because ace king with the king of diamonds is probably just going to be a pure call here. Although I don't hate the idea of shoving it, but that's also for value to try and cooler other ace kings without the diamond. So it's really tough for me to have bluffs here. And it's also a little bit tough for my opponent to have bluffs here to continue barreling on this turn. But anyways, I'm just gonna go for it. I move all in, and my opponent thinks for about a minute or two and makes the call. We're up against pocket aces. We go to the river. It is the 5 of spades pairing the board, and that is going to be a full house. And that is how you punt away $22,000 after not playing a hand for ages. Brutal session to start the video. We were up to 70,000. After this, we lost $34,200. And that was gonna bring the roll down to 36,080 for the challenge. The tilt is really starting to set in. I'm so card dead every goddamn session, and it's getting to me. It really is. You know, we ran into 3 sets today. 3 sets. There was one hand that I played that we just checked it down to the river. Luckily, I didn't have anything. I opened like 10-7 off on the button, and he flopped pocket 9s for a set. But yeah, 3 sets, potentially 4, depending on if my opponent had a set on that second hand when I had jack 6 of clubs. But it's not fun. Not fun running to 4 sets and you played 5 hands all day. So yeah, we just paid everyone off. And yeah, not great. After this session, I took a few days off, got my mental game back in check, and I was ready to be card dead the next session. So let's jump on over to that one. Guys, on to this first hand. We are in for 30,000, playing some more 5,100 at the win. We open up the ace jack off under the gun up to 200. Middle position calls, and both the blinds do as well. 4 hands this flop of king 6-3, all diamonds. Checks to me. Going to start with a small bet here. 200 into the middle, and only the small blind makes the call. Small blind's going to have quite a few pocket pairs here, some stronger suited connectors. Overall, probably the strongest range of the 3. Turn, king of hearts. Card's going to be much better for me than it is for my opponents, so he checks to me. I'm going to continue barreling, telling the story of a strong king, ace, king, king, queen, or a flop flush. So 800 into the middle. I don't want to go too big. Paired board plus 3 to a flush. A lot of hands that they can call that aren't going to be in love with the situation now. So my opponent does make the call. We head to the river. It's the 9 of spades. My opponent once again checks it, and none of my value bets ever get called. Literally none of them. So I'm going to go for the bluff here. I don't think my opponent can hang on. As well, they're going to raise if they have trips or a flush. So he can never have something too strong, and they're very unwilling to call down. So 2.5K into the middle, and my opponent thinks about a minute or two and makes the call. We show, and he's caught the 10-6 of hearts. What the hell? I can't get him off third pair? I don't know what to do anymore, you guys. I'm so card dead. My bluffs don't get through. My value doesn't get called. Anyways, on to the next hand. Folds to us in the cutoff. We open up the queen 5 suited. I think this is pretty standard. Button makes the call. Heads up to a flop, queen 9-3, 2 hearts, 1 diamond. I'm going to start with a check here. This is close to the worst queen I have. I think queen 4 is the bottom of the cutoff open range. So one of the worst queens I can have. I check, my opponent checks behind. Turn, ace of hearts, not a great card. I check once again. My opponent puts in a bet of 600. It's already pretty dicey. I think we could fold, but I'm going to make the call. River's nice. We make 2 pair with a 5 of clubs. I check it. My opponent puts in a bet of 1,000. We've got to go for a little bit of value here. My line doesn't look too credible, so I think that there is a chance we get paid off light. So 2.7K into the middle, just a small raise, and he makes the call. We show. It's good. It's good. A thin little value raise there to get paid. A little bit more on the river there. On to the next hand. Ace 10 off in early position, 200. Middle position calls. Button puts in the 3-bet up to 400. Both the blinds call. He's only got 6K or so to start the hand. And like, what does this raise? This cannot be a strong hand. Most of the time it's not. So I put in the 4-bet up to 2.5K. Button now calls and small blind calls. Disaster. Now, in my mind, I thought I should really just be done with a hand at this point. But the flop comes down Jack 8-3 with 2 clubs. And I decide with no king or queen, with the backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw, I'm just gonna go for it. Small blind checks, I put a bet 2.5K, button shoves 3.5. Small blind folds, we make the call. Unfortunate, the turn is deuce of hearts, river 3 of hearts, no help to us. Button shows pocket kings. Ugh. Man, I cannot get a read on this player pool. Some people, this is a very weak raise. Some people, they just have kings. And we also get hit with the needle. He looks at me and says, "Thank you very much." You're so welcome. On to the next hands. All right, picking up a real hand this time. We got ace king off. It's a limp under the gun. We bump it up to $400 in the hijack. Button calls. Both the blinds call and under the gun calls. Nice, 5-handed. Flop goes down, king, 5-5, 2 clubs. Not bad. Checks to me. I start with a check here. We're a little bit too multi-weight to just start piling money in. Getting raised here just sucks. So I just check, button checks behind. Turns the ace of clubs. Flush draw does get there. Not too worried, and we do have top 2 anyway. So checks to me, gonna start building this pot up in a bet of 800. Button makes a call, everyone else folds. Off the river, we see the 8 of hearts. Let's go for some value. 2.7K into the middle, button makes the call. We show, and it's good. It's good. We're getting some value bets through. It's really nice, feels great. On the next one, under the gun has opened it up to 400. We look down at ace 7 of clubs in middle position. Just gonna flat here, and this invites the button in as well. 3 ways to this flop. Comes down Jack 6-4, all clubs. How about that? Under the gun bets out for 600. Pretty big bet. Getting around half pot here. So I'm gonna just make the call and button folds. Turn, ace of diamonds. And hopefully it doesn't slow him down if he has a hand like pocket kings or queens, but it does not. He bets 1.2K. I consider raising here, but he's only got around 6K behind, and players are just overfolding to aggression. So I just make the call. We go to the river, the ace of hearts. My opponent's praying that he keeps betting now, and he does. He puts in 2K. He only has 2.8K behind, so I'm gonna go for it. I move all in here. My opponent thinks for a little bit and then makes the call. What a session. We show it is good. We are picking up another pot here. On to the final hand of this session. We have pocket 8s. There's a limp. I bumped up to 400 on the button. Big blind calls, and now low jack shoves all in for 5,000. Against almost anyone, I would just snap fold this, but this came from the low jack. It doesn't have to be a particularly strong hand, and he just rebought for 5K. I imagine he's on a little bit of tilt. Pocket 8s. Let's do it. Let's chuck it in. We make the call. We are up against pocket 6s. The flop comes down. 9, 6, 8. We set him on the flop, so it wouldn't have mattered anyways. Turn, 9 of diamonds, river, 4 of clubs. We are going to scoop that pot. So this session, we booked a very nice win, $22,025. A 4-hour session, so not bad. The game actually broke shortly after I stacked that guy. We're down to like 5-handed. So nice to start this video on a good note. Let's keep it going. All right, folks, on to session number 8 now. And this is the most card dead I have ever been in a session. I had one playable hand, and that was it. And I think this is a 6-hour session, so it was brutal. Anyways, on to the first hand. Button opens 300. I got queen 9 off, and I played for 2 hours now. And I think I defended like a 10-4 suited in the big blind. That's it. So I defend flop 10-8 deuce. We have some backdoors and a gut shot, so when my opponent checks, or so when my opponent bets 200, I make the call. Turn, deuce of clubs, no help for us. I check. My opponent checks behind. River is now the 4 of diamonds. Considering he checked on the turn, I think he's got a little bit of showdown value, so let's try and get him off of ace high. 800 into the middle, and my opponent tanks for quite a while. He's really giving this some thought, and eventually says something about watching the vlogs. He doesn't believe me, and makes the hero call. We turn it over, and it's good. My opponent heroed us with jack 5 of clubs, the whole jack high hero call. Man, I would have been annoyed if that was a good call, but you know, that is some heart. You got to give it to him. So, ace jack off, 200 in early position, under the gun. It's a 10-handed game. This really shouldn't be an open, but I do not care. I've not played a hand in ages. Middle position makes a call, so does cutoff, as well as the big blind. We are 4 ways to this flop of ace, queen, 5, 1 club, 2 hearts. I'm gonna start with a small bet here. I put in 300, and now middle position raises it up to 1K. Against a lot of the regs here, and the Rex, I would just fold this, but against this guy, probably not. I'm very worried, don't get me wrong, but I don't think I can fold the flop to this guy, probably turn. Turns the 4 of clubs, I check it, and my opponent checks behind. Off the river, it's a 6 of spades. The check on the turn makes me feel like maybe he's raising with a hand like ace 10 or something, so let's go for it. Let's try and get some thin value. I pot it, 2,800 in the middle, and we get snap call. Oh boy, what have we done? I roll it over, and my opponent mucks. All right. It's been 3 hours, but we're up a little bit. We're not playing very many hands though. This hand, low jack has limped. I look at queen jack off, bumping up to 400. Button makes a call, and low jack calls as well. 3 ways to a flop of queen, 7 deuce rainbow. Low jack checks. I put in 400. Button calls, and so does low jack. 3 ways to the turn is the 10 of clubs. Low jack once again checks, and I think this is getting a little bit thin, but I think I'm gonna go for it. I put in 1.8K, trying to get a little bit more value. There's quite a few hands that can call us, some hands that have picked up equity as well. Hopefully they don't have queen 10 suited, but 1.8K and low jack makes a call. River, the brick of all bricks, the 3 of spades. And what's very interesting now is my opponent leads out for half pot here. I don't know what this is. He's saying it connected with a 3? Like, how? Pocket 3s? What? I don't get it. I have no idea what he could have for value. I have no idea what he could have as a bluff. I don't know what he has that calls 2 streets that wants to lead this river. Does he have a trap? No, they never trap. I don't know. I can't figure it out. It doesn't make sense, so I'm gonna make the call. Then my opponent rolls over the queen, 3 of diamonds. And of course, now it all makes sense, doesn't it? Unfortunate, but it's a very slow session. I've only got 4 days left in Macau, so we're gonna keep grinding. I think I've been playing 4 hours. Let's try and push it to 6, hopefully 8. Let's pick up some hands though. Okay folks, on to the final 3 hands of this session. We'll pick up our first playable hand. I think we're 5, maybe 6 hours into the session. We got pocket aces. Folds round to the hijack who limps. We bump it up to 400. Button calls, so does the big blind, and so does the hijack. Not ideal. Flop, 9, 8, 6, 2 hearts, 1 spade. I hate this game sometimes. Big blind checks, hijack checks, I check, button checks, turn, jack of hearts. We don't have a heart in our hand. Big blind checks, hijack checks. We're gonna have to put in a protection bet here. Does not have to be big. I think around 800 is good, about half pot. And button snap raises to 2.5. Folds back around, I don't even think about this, I just fold. What can you do? And my opponent rolls over. Jack 7 of diamonds. Like, what is going on? He never gets called by worse. And the only hands that are better that he folds out are over pairs without a heart. How, like, it's like they can see my cards. Oh, My God. Yeah, so our only playable hand of the day. We fold the winner. And now, this is hour 7, and I have not played a hand since the aces hand, and I am losing my mind. Under the gun has called, low jack has raised to 300. I could try and justify this by saying he's a loosey-goosey, very fun player, but reality is queen 7 of clubs should never be in there. No matter how loosey-goosey they are, maybe he could do queen 8, maybe. But queen 7 is just a garbage hand. Anyways, I 3-bet to 1K. Now the limper cold calls, and now the low jack. Also, I thought he was quite a bit deeper, but it doesn't really matter. This hand should just be mucked anyways. But he throws in a 5K chip, trying to 4-bet to 5K. Their raise size are so big pre-flop, but I don't know, I guess it kind of makes sense. He's not that deep, but anyways, the dealer says that's a call, and I say, no, just let him raise. He obviously means to raise. He's a little bit newer, so dealer unfortunately says no, and either way, I feel bad now. I should have just folded this pre-flop, and the reason I feel bad is because the flop is queen jack 4, 2 clubs. I could win, and I'm gonna feel bad because I knew he meant to raise, and I'm gonna lose even more chips if I do end up losing. So either way, lose-lose situation for me flopping this. Under the gun checks, low jack bets 1K, I decide to call, limper calls as well. We're 3 ways to the turn, and we turn the flush, the deuce of clubs. Under the gun checks, low jack checks, I put in a bet of 3K. Under the gun calls and low jack calls, we are still 3-handed to this river, and we have the queen high flush. The pot is 15K, limper checks, low jack checks, I move all in. Under the gun, snap folds, and now low jack getting 6 to 1 on his money with an overpair makes the fold. Can you imagine a recreational player folding an overpair, getting 6 to 1 on the river? Oh my goodness, that is the end of that session. Literally the worst session I have ever played. I had aces, that was it. That was my only playable hand the entire session, and we played for 7 hours. It's been like a month now of just pure card death. There's no end in sight, but I've got 4 days left in Macau, so I'm just gonna have to grind through it. We're still a little bit away. We won 7,000 that session, which should not have won. So we're sitting around 65,275, a little under 35K to go to finish off the challenge. We're gonna need a miracle to get this done if the next 3 days are gonna be anything like this. But let's cut to the next day. Welcome back, folks. Session number 9. Let's get into it. The very first hand, I posted my 100 to come in. We pick up 10-9 of hearts. I think this is gonna be a good session. Usually I start off about 2 hours not playing something, but we pick up 10-9 of hearts the first hand. Open up 300, hijack, cutoff, button, all call, and now big blind looks at his hand. He's a reggy looking younger Asian guy and puts in the squeeze up to 2.1K. I think this is just way too good of a squeeze spot for him. 4 players in there. I think it's going a little bit nuts. So we're gonna lay down the hammer. Let's put him in a spot. We bump it up, 5,300, 2.5x in position. It's always the same size for my 4 bets. Everyone folds and big blind tanks for a bit, then makes the call. We go heads up to a flop of Jack 7 deuce rainbow. No heart, unfortunately, but we do have a gut shot. We are probably gonna range bet this. I think so, yeah. So when he checks, I put in a bet of 2,500. I meant to go quarter pot, it's a little bit less, but The SPR is getting a little bit low, so it doesn't really matter too much. The pot is 11,500, so I think this is a fine bet here. And he makes the call. Opposite turn, it's the king of hearts. So now we pick up a double gutter. Any queen, any 8 is gonna make a straight for us. So when he checks, the SPR is getting around 1.5, and we're gonna have a lot of strong hands here. We're gonna have aces, we're gonna have kings, we're gonna have ace king that are still gonna wanna barrel here. So we got to use some bluffs. I put in a wager, 7,500 into a pot of 16K, a little bit less than half pot. I wanna go around 40% here. 40 to 50 sounds good to get it all in by the river. And after a little bit of thinking, my opponent once again makes a call. Guys, on a blank river, we are gonna shove. And we're probably gonna get stacked. And we're gonna have to be okay with it. The river is the queen of hearts. And in game, it took me about 5 seconds to realize that the queen of hearts was the card I needed. For some reason in my head, I was like, I need an 8, I need an 8, I need an 8. I knew I had a double gutter, but I just didn't register the queen was there. And so I'm gathering up the courage to move all in with my straight that I don't know is a straight yet. And then I look at the board and I'm like, oh, I've got a straight. I feel a lot better now. So tank a little bit longer, make them think that I've got a difficult decision, and I move all in, 14,700, and we get called so fast. He snap calls us. So my man here has probably pocket kings or pocket jacks here. We roll it over, tell him a straight. He just nods, mucks his hand, and that is it, guys. We pick up an over $30,000 win on our first hand, putting the challenge at 95,000 and change. 5K left to go, you guys. Let's finish it off this session. All right, folks, literally 2 hands later, we pick up pocket queens. There's an under the gun open to 200. Under the gun plus 2 is 3-bet to only 500. We put on the cold 4-bet, 1.7K up here with the pocket queens, folds back round, and we face the dreaded 5-bet. And it's not even a reasonable size. It's 6,000 for a 5-bet. Oh, that is excessive. But he did just see me go crazy in a 4-bet with 10-9 suited. So maybe he's adjusting. Maybe. Let's hope so. Let's hope he's adjusting. He's just saw me 4-bet 10-9 suited, so maybe he's going crazy. So we're gonna make the call. Normally I would just fold in the spot. We go to a flop of Queen 7-5. This is it, guys. This is the session we've been waiting for the last 8 sessions of card depth. We're here. My opponent puts in a bet of 6,000. I make the call. Turn, the 8 of spades. We don't have a spade in our hand. The SPR is down to 1. My opponent bets 8K. With 1 SPR, let's just stack him. Let's just stack aces or kings. Let's hope that he has it. If we manage to fold a hand like jacks with a spade, I'm still very happy with that. So I move all in and he snap calls us again. River is the deuce of spades. My opponent rolls over, pocket aces with a spade. I seriously need to learn my lesson. Nobody here in the entire city of Macau is adjusting to me, okay? They're not like, oh, this guy bluffs too much, we're gonna make an adjustment. No, they just keep playing their same nitty ranges. If they 5-bet to an abnormally large size, it's just aces, and I just need to fold. I gotta stop talking myself into this. If they're repping a narrow range, it's because they have a narrow range and it is just value. But guys, in a span of 3 hands, we're up 30K and we're back. I think we're down to about 27K now in our stacks. We're down about 3,000. The poker gods giveth and they taketh away. On to the next hand. Under the gun plus 1 has raised up to 300. Folds around to me in the hijack, and we are actually picking up hands this session. It feels really good. I put in a 3-bet up to 1K with the ace queen suited. Folds right around to under the gun who makes the call. Flop 8-3-3, 2 diamonds. We're even hitting flops today, you guys. Under the gun checks. We put in a bet of 600 and my opponent makes the call. Turn, king of diamonds. Get another check. We put in a bet of 2,000. I sized up a little bit here. I meant to go 1,700, but I want to go around half pot. Fortunately, my opponent just folds. Let's do one more hand here. I really like this lighting. So we've got 2 limps before hijack raises it up to 500, and we 3-bet the 7-6 spades up to 1,700 in the cutoff. Small blind now cold calls, and hijack also makes a call. So 3 ways to a flop of 8-3-3 rainbow. There's a spade there, so we have some back doors. checks to me, start with a small bet, 1.7K, small blind calls and hijack folds. Kind of expected this. Small blind's gonna have a lot of medium strength pocket pairs. Let's pray he doesn't have 8s here. Turn, 10 of clubs, we turn a gut shot. Small blind checks, we're gonna fire one more bullet at this, and we're probably gonna have to give up river. I don't know if I have it in me to give up rivers with 7 high though, but I put in a bet, 6,500 into the middle. Seems about reasonable. I do the same with over pairs. Lucky for us, the small blind just folds. All right guys, let's go find a new location and finish off a few more hands from this session. Okay folks, let's get on to the next few hands. Folds around to the button, who, hey there, goes to muck his hand and then looks up and realizes that it's folded to him. And then he puts in a raise to 300. So I literally do not care about my hand. I'm going to 3-bet him after I've seen this. I put in the re-raise up to 1.2K with 10-8 off. I would do this with 7 deuce. I don't care. I just saw him try and muck his hand and then realized that that wasn't a leaf, that was a slug that I just brushed off. That's disgusting. But then he calls. Damn it. Flop comes down 6-5-4. This is going to be a range check from us, so I check it over. He checks behind. Turn is beautiful. We get rewarded for absolute punt here, and we turn the 7 of diamonds. The card gave me a lot better for him than it is for me, so I check once again, and he puts in a bet of 800. I make the call, we go to the river, it's the jack of diamonds. I check it over, and he puts in another bet of 1K into 4,000. Guys, if there's something I can tell you here, never, ever, ever bet quarter pot in position on the river, especially against someone who's aggressive and can check raise bluff you. This time I do have it though, so I am gonna raise him. I put in the raise up to 6,000. He tanks for quite a while and eventually decides to fold. Ah, damn it. We didn't get paid that time, but anyways, on to the next hand. We have 2 limps in early position, folds around to a reg, who makes it 500, cut off calls, and I'm gonna defend here the king 10 off on the button. The 2 players that limped are just, I need to get involved in pots with them. I think king 10 off is gonna make it in there, and we're in position. So the original limper does call, the other one does fold. We go 3 ways to a flop of king 9-5 rainbow. Under the gun checks, the reg now bets 500. I make the call and under the gun folds. Turn is the jack of hearts. If hijack bets, I'm probably gonna turn my hand into a bluff and just check and just raise it up here. But he checks it over. So happy to check this one back. River is another king. We make trips. Ready to call any bet this guy makes. And then he throws in an over 2x over bet up to 6,000. I played this guy once before, and I know he's 100, 200 reg. Alarm bells were screaming in my head, but I just couldn't get over the fact that like this guy is a 100, 200 reg. He's got to have some bluffs here. But no one bluffs. Just nobody bluffs. And I eventually talked myself into a call. Because I'm not calling this, what am I calling? So I make the call, my opponent rolls over the king 9 offsuit for the full house. I gotta stop paying these guys off. I really have to stop. No one is bluffing. I picked up maybe 3 bluffs here in Macau, and I had very good reasons to do it. But when I don't have a good reason to do it, I should just fold. What started off as an amazing session has now not gone so well, but let's try and pick things up. We got pocket jacks this time. We have an early position raise, middle position is called the 300, and I bump it up to 1.3K in the cutoff. Folds around, the original raiser makes a call, so we're heads up to a flop of ace 10-9 rainbow. Early position checks, I decide to just check this back. Ace 10-9 is a pretty heavy check back, even in 3-bet pots. Turn, the jack of hearts, love to see it. We turn the set. My opponent checks once again, and I bet 1.5K, around half pot here, and he snap check raises to 5K. I do not want to blow him off. We've been playing a little while together now, and every time I delay c-bet, literally every single time, he has check raised me. And the last 3 times I had to fold because I literally had just nothing. But this time, we got something. We got him this time. The river is the 4 of hearts. I'm not expecting him to have a flush. I am gonna snap call. He puts in a wager of 10,000. We beat him into the pot and he rolls over 9-7 of hearts. Oh man, you guys, I thought that this was it. I thought we were finishing the challenge this session, but now we are down heaps. It is not going well. Why do we keep paying people off? They don't have bluffs. You know Bart Simpson, when he writes on the chalkboard, I will not call river bets. That's what I gotta do. On to the next few hands, let's go. All right, folks, let's finish off this action-packed session. I know I'm down like 20, 30,000 at this point, but you know what? I'm just happy to be picking up hands. To be honest, it's been a while, okay? But we've got a limp, middle position made at 400, very tight player. I look down at pocket nines in the hijack. I could mix here between re-raise and call, but not versus this player. I just make the call, folds back round, big blind, and the limper call. 4 ways to a flop of 9-7-3 rainbow. Action unfortunately checks to me. Damn it! I put in the bet of 400, big blind makes a call, both other players make the fold. Off the turn, it is the deuce of hearts, big blind now checks. We're very deep here. On this brick, we are gonna want to overbet. I don't think there's any other size that we want to go here, so I put in a wager, 3,000, just a small overbet, and unfortunately my opponent makes a very quick fold. On to the next hand, we have a middle position raised to 300, low jack has called, I defend the button with king jack offsuit, versus a fish. I think this is definitely okay. The no rake ante games, I believe king jack off is a pure call here, so I think it's okay. We go to a flop of ace, queen, 10. King jack off not looking so pretty bad now, is it? Middle position bets 500, low jack calls, I make the call as well, and we go to the turn, which is the 10 of clubs. Middle position now checks, low jack checks, I put in a half pot bet of 1.5k, and they both fold. This is not going well, you guys. We ran into 2 very big pairs on our first 3 hands. I know we won 1, but the rest of the session is not going well for us. Let's try and pick things up. On the gun players raised 300. We got queen jack of clubs. I prefer squeezing this hand if there's a few more callers, so I just decide to flat here in middle position. This invites to cut off the button in, and then the small blind puts in the squeeze up to 1.7k. Original razor folds. I am not folding. This is the reg again, so I make the call, cut off calls, and button calls. We're going 4 ways to this flop of ace, king, 10. We flopped the nut straight again. Let's go. Small blind now checks. What do you mean you check? Stop. So we put in a bet of 2k. Everyone folds, but the small blind does make the call. Turn, 9 of diamonds. Small blind once again checks it. We want to get money in. I really think in hindsight I prefer to check here. He just check called a small bet on the flop. I don't think his hand's gonna be too strong, but I really want to stack him. So I put in a bet of 8,000, and unfortunately he just folds. What can you do? On to the next hand. We got pocket kings. We're picking up hands, you guys. It's like all the sessions of card death have now accumulated into this one session, but we're still stuck. Whatever. We bump it up to $200 in early position, cut off calls, and now big blind. The reg who value towned us with the king 9 on the full house puts in the 3 bet up to 1.6k. That is big. What is that, like 8x? So 7x if you minus the other person. I'm wondering if he studies his big blind ranges at this point, because big blind is a larger 3 bet, as you are more polar against early position, but I don't know. Anyways, we're gonna bring it up. 4,000 in the middle, cutoff folds, and big blind makes a call. Heads up to a flop of 6-5-3. Very good flop for us against a 3-bet range. So 2k into the middle, quarter pot, my opponent makes a call. Hand to the turn is a deuce of clubs. My opponent checks, and SPR, we're looking around 15k behind, 12,000 in the middle. So around a half pot bet on the turn and river will get us all in. So that is what I do. 6,000 to the middle. Unfortunately, my opponent just snap folds, so not getting paid that hand, and that is going to wrap up session 9. And we managed to climb back out of the hole. You know, we're up 30k, then we lost 33,000 in two hands later, and then we lost, I think, 20,000 more. Managed to climb back up, and we book a win of $5,445 to put us at 70,720. And we have, I believe, 3 days left in Macau before I go to Hong Kong. So we're kind of back where we started. Kind of sucks to lose the Queens versus Ace of top set. We were so close. If we just held, that would be the end of the challenge, but at least you guys get some more content. 3 more days, hopefully 3 more sessions for you guys. Let's cut to it. All right, folks, on to the 10th session here. We have 3 days left in Macau to finish off the challenge. We're sitting at just over 70,000, so 300 big blinds to go. Quite card dead again, unfortunately. But we pick up ace 9 of spades, middle position, bump it up to 200 before the big blind now puts in the raise to 800. This guy's 3-bet me about 5 times this session, so I'm just not going to believe him too much. So I make the call, go heads up to a flop of king 10 9. No spades, but we do have bottom pairs. So when he bets 800, about half pot, makes sense. We're going to make the call. Off the turn, 7 of spades. My opponent once again puts in a bet, but this time only 1,000. A very small bet. It feels like he's got something middling now. You know, perhaps like pocket 8s or something. Maybe some jacks or queens, something like that. So I make the call. We head to the river. It's the king of clubs. The flush draw does get there and trip kings. Now my opponent once again puts in a small bet, around half pot of 2,500. I don't know, he's been so aggressive. He's been barreling me off almost every hand that I played this session. You know, I've just managed to catch on like middle pair or something, haven't held on. But I think he's got something like queens or jacks here. I saw him limp call ace king, so I'm not too worried about that hand. So I'm gonna go for the raise here. I bumped up to 9,000 and it takes him all of 2 seconds to make the call, and he's got the ace king. Oh boy, this guy has crushed me. He's won every single pot. I don't remember if you remember the hand, but I had set of jacks versus a 9-7 of hearts. He check raised me. He just keeps check raising me, so aggressive, and he's just taking out every pot. Wins them all at showdown, or I'm pretty sure he's bluffing me off, or maybe he just has it every time we play, but not a good start to the session, unfortunately. Okay, on to the next hand. We haven't played a hand in a couple hours now, so when the button raises to 300 and I look down jack 9 of hearts, it's looking really good. I put in the re-raise up to 1.2 and my opponent calls on the button. Heads up to a flop of ace jack 4, 2 diamonds, 1 spade. Not a whole lot going on for us, but it's a board that's going to favor me a lot more, so I start with a small bet of 800, which my opponent calls. Turn 8 of hearts doesn't change anything. Could introduce some 2 pairs for him, like ace 8 suited, but I'm going to continue barreling here, and we'll decide on the river if we want to go for it. I put in a wager of $3,500, setting up for the river shove. My opponent once again makes a call after quite a long tank. River, the jack of spades. We do pick up some showdown value, and I think it's very tempting to just check this one back. We've got showdown value, but we really don't. We just beat flush draws now. But I think having the jack is a really good card as it blocks ace jack, you know, our main hero call that's turned into 2 pair now on the river for him. And we also don't have diamonds. So I really like using this hand, and I'm gonna go for it, as players just aren't paying off. You know, they're not paying off. They're not gonna call me here with ace queen. They're not gonna find the hero calls. So I move all in, and we face an extremely long tank. So long so that some other player has to call clock. And as soon as this guy calls clock, my opponent picks up some chips, just goes, slams into the middle, and rolls over ace 10 offsuit. Guys, I can't get paid. I can't get plus through. What am I doing? What is going on? Everyone is playing perfect poker against me. All right, on to the next hand. Let's try run it up. This is another big card dead session. It's been about an hour, but we pick up 8-6 of spades. Under the gun +2 is raised up to 400 over a limp. We bump it up to 1,300. It's gonna be a 3-bet or fold here. Folds around, and under the gun makes the call. Heads up to a flop of 9-7-7, 2 spades, 1 club. think about it for a bit. This board's gonna be a little bit better for him than it is for me. I could go with a small bet here, but I wanna have some flush draws, and I think 8-6 spades that can call, you know, a turn over bet, which is what my opponent should be doing with their probes, is nice to have in my check back range. So check, check, turn 4 of diamonds. My opponent once again checks it, and probably gonna start bluffing here. So I put 2,500 into the middle. You wanna size up here for the turn delay c-bet, and my opponent check raised to 7,500. This line is so common here in Macau. Everyone goes for the check raise against the delayed c-bet. It's just like, it's almost 100% frequency. So I am a huge non-believer of this line. Let's just try and blow him off any kind of equity he has. I move all in, and he beats us into the pot. All right, well, we got a few outs. River, deuce of hearts, that is not one of them, and my opponent rolls over pocket nines, so we literally only had 2 outs. Oh my goodness. This is not the start to session number 10 that I wanted. We're running to so many sets here, paying off everyone. Can't get bluffs through, not ideal. All right guys, let's try and turn this session around. Let's try and not be so card dead and not run into full houses and trips and top pairs and stuff. It would be nice. We open the 10-9 of hearts under the gun, +2 calls, low jack squeezes to 800, and we both make the call. 3 ways to a flop of 6, 5, 5, 2 hearts, 1 spade. Check it over, and low jack bets out for 1.2. I make the call, and under the gun +2 folds. Turn, queen of hearts. I check it, and my opponent checks behind. River, the 10 of diamonds. We are gonna go for some value here with our flush. I put in a bet of 4,000, and my opponent takes about 2 seconds before showing me pocket aces and folding. I can't remember if it had a heart. I don't think it did, but what do you mean you fold aces? How does everyone know? This is absurd. It's just insane. Yeah. On to the next hand. We've got a real one. We pick up pocket kings in the big blind, and everyone folds, and we win $50. My opponent even says that he doesn't chop. He never chops, and we still can't even get the small blind to put in an additional 50. Next hand, we have ace king off in the big blind. Pretty nice. Under the gun is limp. Low jack is raised to 300. Button is made at 900. I look over to stack. He's got around 5,500, so 55 big blinds. We put in the re-raise, the cold 4-bet, up to 3K. Going a little bit larger just because we can't really make it 25% of his stack here. That would be, I guess we could, but I'm really just not raise folding here ever. So I make it 3K. He ships it all in. We make the call. We're up against pocket jacks. We're not even gonna go to a run out. We know what happens. That's the end of that session, you guys. I can't take it anymore. All right, guys, with that, we end the session down $45,170, bringing the challenge down to $24,520. It's about a 70,000 drop since our peak. It's been rough, 700 big blinds. That's one of the biggest downswings I've been on since I started playing poker again last year. And every session is just pure card dead. Opponents just completely outplaying me, getting me to bluff when they've got it, getting me to barrel off when they got top pair or full houses, calling down my bluffs, check raising my turn when I've got nothing. It's not been fun. So I do have 2 more days to play, but I'm gonna call it quits here. Just wanna take a break from poker, especially Macau poker. It's a totally different beast. I can't get adjusted to it. It's just killing me. Anyways, that is it for the video. 10 sessions played, 9 of them very card dead. Ended up with a positive of $24,520, so not the end of the world. We are still up a little bit, but I'm excited to play some more quote-unquote street poker in a live stream next week at the Hong Kong Poker Players Association, so that's gonna be fun. Subscribe if you guys want to see that, and chuck me a like. I'm so sweaty. I've lost so much money. My will is broken. The least you can do is just click the button. Boost my engagement. Thank you. See you guys all next week.